Hello everyone, consider the following. You just unlocked Bolt. You want to go play Bolt. And you keep missing the beat. It's feeling random. You keep not sure whether it's like impossible to keep the beat at this tempo if the game's like dropping your inputs. Because you feel like you're hitting the beat. Well, let me tell you, your latency calibration probably sucks. So this video will go over how to address that. First thing you need to do, turn that HUD off. If you have it on, you need to turn it off. If you haven't had it on, that's probably for the best. That allows you to see in the middle bottom of the screen the beat bars meeting. Now, if you see the beat bars imprint on the screen, that's something that means you're early in the beat. And if you see them disappear and your input is eaten afterwards, that means you're late in the beat. The game will still let you move early or late in the beat. But if you give an input in a window that has already had an input received for that window, like you were late in the first beat, so late that it was early for the next, it'll eat the next beat because it thinks you've already given that beat. So it's important to be able to tell where in the beat you actually land. Now, latency calibration is provided by the options, and it gives you this nice audio latency, video latency, take a minute, or you can press S to skip. I think skipping is always the correct call because it isn't actually a very well calibrated process for double tempo. Instead, you will be going into it manually and looking at the audio and video latency. As I have set up here, it's 0 and 0. Many people will consider 0, 0 to be probably good enough because their hardware doesn't have that large of a discrepancy, right? It can't be that you need to set these numbers to something like outstandingly large or small. But it turns out that 0, 0 is often pretty bad. Now, video latency, I have never actually seen an issue changing it because I play by ear. I play to the sound of the music. I want to make sure that I'm hitting the button when the music happens. I don't necessarily care that the visuals of the heart pulsing are perfect. So I'm only going to be talking about where you should be setting this number and how to find that out. Note that 16 milliseconds is 1 frame at a 60 FPS game like Necrodancer. So a change that is subframe is not really going to matter if the game is only polling for your inputs at the frame. So 16 is kind of like the smallest reasonable change. But for a first go, I will just change it to 80 and show you the difference in my own game. So you'll notice that the beat bars are still vanishing before my input is received, and I think on the mic you'll be able to hear me tapping the keys pretty loudly. I'm on a membrane keyboard, but if this is hitting the beat and the beat bars are still disappearing, I am still late in the beat. And to make an adjustment if you are late in the beat, you make that number higher. So I moved it to 80. I need to move it higher still. To get a sense of how much higher you would need to move it, start trying to rush. If I'm like half a beat early, I can get the beat bars to leave an imprint on the screen. That imprint happens when you're giving an early input. What you want to do is keep just ramping this number up and up and up until hitting the beat leaves a small imprint, not one that's like super widely separated, but one that is noticeable. So I'm going to move this to 200 for the next one, and I do regret that you can't hold here. You have to just flutter tap on your arrow key, but if I set this to 200, which seems like it's a large number, I hit the beat and there's a small imprint visible in the middle. This means I'm finally a little too early. And the amount early is proportional to the gap between the two beat bars that leave the imprint. So the goal should be to be early and then lower the number until you are no longer perceptibly early. Not mods. Latency. So I have already calibrated with my headphones set up and with my laptop, and the number for me is somewhere around 130 to 140. So what good calibration looks like in that is that if I hit the beat, the imprints aren't there, but if I start rushing just a tiny bit, I get to see the imprints show up immediately. So if I'm like trying to actually play the game. And that can work even if I'm going much faster. And instead of trying to go to a faster level, I will go to the extreme here and just double up on Bolt and go into death metal. What should happen is that even with a stream of beats like this, if you are actually hitting the beat at the time that the audio cues say that you should, the beat bars should leave at most a tiny imprint, and they shouldn't just say you missed the beat. So now that I know what my calibration value is, I can do this. No mists. Okay, a couple. I'm not going to go as hardcore as to try this on coda because miss equals death, but like I can get pretty decent streaks on quad tempo death metal without seeing mist. Nah, don't get fireballed. There. I mean, I can beat it. I took damage, but the point here is to show whether or not I can keep the beat, and there's not a point at which the game's just going to stop taking your inputs. If you can give an input a frame, and it'll still pull for an input a frame. The question is whether or not that input falls where you think it is, and this video hopefully addresses how you calibrate latency so that that is true. Thanks for watching.